What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome to Mando Talk. I'm your host, Caleb Keller, and on this episode of Mando Talk, we have the opportunity to discuss Andor episodes 1 through 3. This is going to be a spoiler discussion, so if you haven't checked out those first 3 episodes, go watch them, which is going to take a minute, but then come back and check out this podcast. I'd greatly appreciate if you are checking this out on whatever platform, whether that be YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all the above, really. And whatever platform you're on, make sure you hit subscribe for continued Andor coverage throughout this season. And what we're going to be doing on this podcast episode is I want to kind of check out the Rotten Tomatoes scores, see what the critics are thinking, see how the audience is feeling. I'm going to share my review of Andor episodes 1 through 3. Then we're going to talk about spoilers. We're going to talk about the big takeaways, the big moments that occurred, and then we'll have some fun toward the end of the podcast with something Andor specific, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, it's been a minute, podcast listeners especially. So how you doing? Let me know. Reach out. Twitter, X, at Mando Talk. You can hit me up there for additional thoughts throughout this season of Star Wars television. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let me pull up the Rotten Tomatoes site, and here we are. So specifically for Season 2 of Andor, the critics have spoken big time. 96% certified fresh, and that is based on 102 reviews. Now, let me remind you, for those of you that do not know how Rotten Tomatoes works, that does not mean that people are saying that it's a 96 out of 100 quality level. That means 96% of those 102 reviews think it's good, or give it a rating of like 3 out of 5 or higher. So that just means the majority, the vast majority, think that Andor Season 2 is really well done. If it's sitting at 96%, then that's a massive, massive, massive win. That is absolutely incredible. And I do think it's important for us to talk about this. Everybody, to my understanding, that got like an early screener to see Andor got the entire season of television. So this 96% number, these 102 reviews, the majority of those reviews are based on episodes 1 through 12. Okay? Now, the audience number, though, this 80%, which is sitting at 500 plus ratings, I'm assuming the vast majority of those are people like me and you that have only seen the first 3 episodes. So that's not a massive difference, but it's a pretty solid difference there of a 96% from the critics and an 80% from the audience. And I have to say, so I guess this will kind of bleed into my non-spoiler review here. Based on episodes 1 through 3, I think 80% is a fair number. For me personally, I think I gave episode 1 like an 8 out of 10, episode 2 like an 8.5 out of 10, but then episode 3, folks, 10 out of 10 television. That was unreal how they brought all of the different plot lines kind of to a head there for this first block of 3 episodes. It was action-packed. It was epic. It was gripping. It was jaw-dropping. It was shocking. It was all of the descriptors of epic television was that 3rd episode in Andor. So, yeah, I think that 80% number's fine for right now. Now, and this is what I've heard from critics and people that have seen episodes 1 through 12. A lot of people are saying that the first block of 3 episodes that we just got is probably their least favorite block of 3 episodes of the entire season. So that just means that it's only getting better from here, which is certainly exciting, and that certainly has me pumped to see the rest of this thing, and I wish one day maybe Mando Talk will be able to get that early screener access to where I can more easily share my thoughts and reviews and all those different things, but that's just a dream and goal of mine that I've always had, but I also just really enjoy taking this in with you guys, the audience. But I'm certainly pumped. I'm stoked to see where this thing is taking us. Now, if you didn't know, each block of 3 episodes is a year jump. So after this was 1 year or 4 BBY, I believe. Next year or next block of 3 will jump up a year, and then we'll jump up another. So this is covering 4 years in the Star Wars timeline, leading us up right to A New Hope. So if this first block of 3 episodes wasn't for you, don't give up. Make sure you check out episodes 4, 5, and 6 because it could be a totally different vibe for you. So don't give up on it. Almost view it as like 4 separate movies because essentially, I mean, it's going to take you a hefty amount of time to watch each block of 3 episodes as we go. So that's certainly interesting, the 96% number and the 80% number. And haven't seen a whole lot of talk of people saying, because I've seen talk of, the critics and audience is kind of viewing this thing a little bit differently. Well, I haven't seen a whole lot of talk of, the critics have seen the whole daggone thing, while we, the audience, have only seen episodes 1 through 3. So that's certainly something to consider, and I would not be shocked at all if that 80% audience number ends up cranking up a notch as we go along this season for sure. Let's see what the critic consensus here says. I'm assuming that that's like AI that can like summarize what the majority of these critics are saying. So let's just read it. Investing startling conviction and gravity into the Star Wars sandbox. Andor's superb second season lights a fire of rebellion that heats up the screen. Beautiful. So well done. Rotten Tomatoes. That's the shortest critics' consensus I've ever read, which is not fitting for the lengthy amount of time that we spent watching Andor Season 2, baby. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with Andor episodes 1 through 3 for the second season. The first 2 episodes are admittedly slower paced, but like I said, that third episode, just next level. So next thing that I want to do is I want to check out, Star Wars has done a great job on their official website of releasing an Andor Explained article, episodes 1 through 3, 1 year later, Sagrona, Tima, and Harvest. I read through this thing, and it is phenomenal. So we're going to use this as our structure to discuss spoilers, to share my thoughts on the big reveals, and then we'll go from there. I hope that sounds great to you. And it doesn't necessarily take it one episode at a time, but it takes it plot line at a time. Like, it's going to discuss the Cassian's story that he had going on. It discusses Mon Mothma's story that she had going on, and so on. So that's how we'll go about it as well then with our spoiler discussion here, which, by the way, the next time that we do a podcast episode covering Andor, episodes 4, 5, and 6, it might not be this format. So you just let me know. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the old Mando Talk way where we go scene by scene, or do you kind of like this overall spoiler discussion instead? Okay, here we go. In the 3-episode premiere of Andor Season 2, we learn how much Cassian Andor has changed since he turned himself in to Luthen, begging to be put out of his misery or taken in for a greater purpose. Cassian is more confident in the mission, showing leadership qualities even when he's being held captive by an offshoot rebel cell with rogues too busy fighting amongst themselves to even begin fighting the Imperial threat. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma grapples with the personal cost of mounting a rebellion, her sorrow simmering beneath the forced joy and revelry of her daughter Leeta's marriage that she has going on throughout this first block of 3 episodes. Now, before we get specifically into Cassian's story in this block of 3, the leadership is right away portrayed off the screen from Cassian Andor that was not there in Season 1. Like, he's calming this girl down who's on her first rebel mission, it appears, talking to her and talking through it with her and saying, we have to fight the Empire. This small moment is going to pay off eventually. He's very much so invested in this concept that Luthen has kind of rallied him behind, and that's certainly some character growth that I really, really enjoy seeing. Okay, so let's specifically talk about Cassian's arc in this block of 3. At the Sinar test facility, Cassian shows courage behind enemy lines, giving new recruit Ania a pep talk before boldly stealing an experimental TIE Avenger right out of an Imperial hangar. The Empire cannot win, he tells her. You'll never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them. You're coming home to yourself. It takes a certain level of backbone and bravery to pull off, and the theft is reminiscent of Cassian's earlier infiltration on Aldhani. That doesn't mean it's easy. Although he does not hesitate, Andor is clearly nervous once he gets behind the controls, and that this is a word, I don't know what it is, and that reticence is completely warranted. Maybe I said that right. As the small craft smashes into the walls and invites enemy fire before he can finally make a limping departure to the stars. Let's talk about that TIE Avenger, folks. That was so sick. That is like a video game come to life mission almost, and the way they shot it, the way it looks, that tie was so cool. And honestly, the first 10 to 15 minutes for me was the best part of the episode. I don't know if that's necessarily a great thing to say, but I loved the first 10 to 15 minutes where we got to explore and play around with Cassian struggling with that TIE Avenger. That was certainly cool. After a rough landing at a familiar jungle moon rendezvous, Cassian's troubles are compounded when instead of his contact, he is met by a band of rebels, starving and stranded, turning on each other when they desperately need to pull together to find a way to escape. It's clear that Cassian has matured. He does not wallow in his misfortune or turn inward. Despite literally being cuffed and held captive, he is always formulating a plan, subtly suggesting tactics like collecting water to save himself and the crew. And when they fail to listen to reason and devolve into childish games of five hands, which was really weird, it was essentially like rock, paper, scissors of Star Wars, I guess. To try to solve their dispute, Cassian makes a break for it. I mean, really, who could blame him? Now, this will be my one time I'm critical, I think. While I understand the story they were trying to tell there with that small band of rebels of, yes, we're very much so in the early stages of rebellion, and it's going to be really hard to get this ragtag group together to rally behind a certain cause, and clearly it's allowing it, or clearly here in these moments they're splitting. But all of this, it was just too long, I felt. It got to the point where I was kind of annoyed with some of the people in the group, and I just didn't really care, quite frankly, until the very end, whenever they reveal that this whole time that they're on this moon that Cassian has been to before, at the end of episode 2, they revealed that it's Yavin 4. So obviously this place is going to become important. I don't know if the group of rebels that we see in these episodes come back. I don't know if they all get killed that night as that creature was kind of just causing havoc amongst the group as Cassian's able to escape. But I wouldn't be upset if we never see him again, because some of them are just really silly, not really smart at all, quite frankly. So again, I didn't mind it. It was fun. It was fine, especially having the time with the TIE Fighter and having the Yavin 4 reveal. But it just could have been shorter, I felt like. Maybe I'm alone on that. I don't know. You let me know. So that is Cassian's arc, though, really the majority of this first block of 3 until he catches up with his family, his friends, essentially. So let's talk about them. Meanwhile, on Mina Rao, I probably am not going to do well with these new places and new character names, by the way, folks. You get what you get here, and those of you that have listened to Mano talk for so long, you expect that. I'm a kid from Tennessee who cannot read. Meanwhile, on Mina Rao, we get a glimpse of the life Cassian and his fellow Ferric survivors deserve, a largely peaceful existence embraced by a new community of grain farmers. Bix is a woman haunted. At night, she's visited by Dr. Gorst in her nightmares, but she finds some semblance of peace during the daylight hours, using the skills she honed on Ferrix to help keep the farming equipment running on the tranquil agrarian world. Brazo and Will have found romance with 2 local women, and Bix refers to Cassian as her husband to stave off the threat of Imperial officers who believe they can take whatever they want by force. But it's those invasive Imperials conducting a census that shatter the illusion of peace for this small band of survivors. With communication cut off and having raised Imperial suspicions, Bix, Brazo, Will, and everyone who has helped them are at risk, and the truth becomes clear. They couldn't outrun the long arm of the Empire forever, and it's not just Mina Rao that's come under some intense scrutiny and tyranny. The Empire's evil is spreading like a disease. I was locked in with this entire story. I can't lie. I love the character of Bix. Will falling in love, completely understandable. Brazo, phenomenal. This obviously leads to the main conversation that has been going on online with the scenes of, and just to avoid being flagged, because I've heard people say that if you use certain terminology, for some reason YouTube takes down the video. I don't know. So to avoid that, I'm just going to say it in vague terms. But Bix being taken advantage of by an Imperial officer has been a main source of conversation as this week has gone on. In my opinion, this show has very much so laid the groundwork to tackle such an issue. I know some of you feel potentially that those type of moments shouldn't be seen or portrayed in Star Wars. And while I hear you and I understand that take, I do feel different about it, if I'm being quite honest. This Andor show is very much so open to addressing real difficult issues, and they have established that since season 1. So this wasn't even a thought of mine until I got online of people being like, this doesn't belong in Star Wars, because it's very realistic. Star Wars and the Empire has always been a representation essentially of like Nazi Germany and how they went about things throughout war. And you're telling me that they didn't do stuff like this? 100% they did. And anytime that there's war involved, there's going to be men, unfortunately, that feel like they can take advantage of people. And this is something that goes on all the time, sadly. And while it was a very difficult scene to watch and to take in, I think it's important that they tell that story because it's certainly a reality that's out there. And it's unfortunate, and I'm so thankful that Bix was able to avoid anything else there, because Bix is absolutely incredible. But we're certainly, I'm assuming, upcoming, going to address maybe how this continues to send Bix on a downward spiral. I feel so bad for her. She went through so much in the first season already, and now this, it's really tough. Really tough. But again, and if you're somebody that feels differently, please let me know. We can have a conversation about it, but we don't have to yell at each other about it. I respect both sides of it. That's just kind of how I feel about it. There's an equal balance now. You have Skeleton Crew, the lighthearted fun. You have Andor, a dark, serious story. And then you have something like right down the middle of like The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, The Acolyte, Book of Boba Fett, like all of that, all of your more, I guess that's kind of the middle ground that you expect in Star Wars. But if we're going to have a show where we openly say, yeah, I think it's fine to have Skeleton Crew, something that's geared toward kids, then we also have to have the perspective and the ability to say, okay, it's also fine to have a grown-up show that kids don't really need to watch in Andor. I think that's totally healthy. I think that's totally fine. That's the beauty of modern-day content creation and platforms, is you can hit all of the different aspects of it. But anyway, I may have talked about that a little bit too much, but it was certainly warranted, I feel like, because that was, like I said, main conversation this past week. Okay, let's move on to Mon Mothma's story going on, mixed with Luthen, because it was all kind of clustered together between those two in this block of 3. Cause to celebrate, which brings us to Chandrila. By the way, seeing Chandrila in live action was so sick, and it was so well done. It was so beautiful. The set design, incredible. The way they shot it, especially there was a scene like the first time we go there where the camera just follows Mon. Oh, so good, so good. Anyway, the opulence and the forced gaiety of Lita Mothma's wedding, coupled with the desperation of Mina Rao and the jungle moon, revealed to be Yavin 4, is exquisitely excruciating. The Mothmas have so much, trays overflowing with food and drink, rooms so spacious you can almost hear an echo, and the finest robes and gowns. A rotating fashion show unfurled throughout the multi-day ceremony in a lavish show of wealth and prosperity, but it's all a facade. That is incredible. I haven't even thought about that, quite frankly, but now that I've read that, yeah, it's so obvious. I probably should have made that observance that we have we have people that are thriving under the Empire, majority that are not, though. Beneath the surface, Mon Mothma is beginning to break. Her childhood friend, Tay Kolma, has fallen on hard times, and she is powerless to protect him from his worst instincts, actions that may draw undue attention to herself. Enter Luthen, the cleaner. With one call, Cinta leaps into action, and it's clear that Tay will no longer be a liability. The sighting is also a shock to the system of Cinta's girlfriend, Vel. They're two star-crossed lovers who never seem to get time for each other. So let's pause there for a second and discuss this. The Tay stuff was very intriguing throughout this block of 3 because he was beginning to act like he was going to be loose-lipped regarding his funding of the rebellion, and the family that Lita is marrying into, from my understanding, is very much supportive of the Empire. And that was the person that Tay was threatening to talk to, or at least potentially talking to. So yeah, that became a problem. And Mon Mothma was like dying to have a meeting the next week where they can find a number where they can come to an agreement. And Luthen said, nah, he's going to get taken care of. It's too much of a liability. And again, dark story, but it certainly makes sense. And I can't lie. As soon as he started talking, I thought, oh, he has to go. He's got to go. I'm sorry, he's got to go. And they actually committed to it, and it's well written, well done, well written. Continuing the intensity from season 1, it's clear that Mon's relationship with her daughter is frayed beyond repair. There's a coldness to their private conversations. Yeah, there was. That was brutal when Mon was like, my mom was drunk on the night that I got married, and then she like shares this stuff of, you don't have to do this, and then Lita's like, I wish you were drunk. Like, oh, golly, that's a cold cut. Anyway, there's a coldness to their private conversations as Mon tries to give her daughter the out she desperately wishes she had as a teenage bride herself. Instead, she's met with Lita's contempt. For sure. That shows just how different their relationship is to Cassian and Marva Andor's loving bond. Ooh, and then her husband, Perrin, gives a speech. I have to say, that speech was great, but I still hate the guy. Perrin's speech, we find a universal message as significant to the newlyweds as Mon herself. Pain will find you, he says, but that is all the more reason we must reach for joy. The music buried beneath all things. Perhaps that is why Mon ultimately gives herself over to the festivities, drinking to numb the pain and dancing the night away as the beat of Niamos enraptures the well-wishers, a fleeting moment of happiness for some in a galaxy that has gone terribly dark. When I was watching the scenes of Mon like drinking and dancing, I interpreted that as she knows deep down that Luthen is taking care of Tay, and she has to do something to get through it, and that is to drink, to dance, and ignore it. And that was dark. It was jaw-dropping. It was very intriguing. And again, as you've heard me say, so well done. Like I said, episode 3, I gave it a 10 out of 10, and I stand by that. And I'm about to go watch it a second time because my wife still hasn't watched it, and I'm very much so looking forward to it. Very much so looking forward to it. Okay, so that wraps up Mon's arc for this block of 3. Now let's talk about the Empire and what they've got going on. From the clandestine meeting at the Malthine Divide to the top levels of Coruscant, the Empire has only grown stronger and more corrupt. Imperial leaders, not unlike the officer who attacked Bix, take what they want, even if it means displacing the people of Gorman and strip mining their world of all its most precious mineral resources. On a smaller scale, Supervisor Dedra Miro, gosh, I love Dedra, folks. I love her so much, shows her fangs to Edie, the overbearing mother of her romantic partner, Cyril. During a dinner party that is equal parts tense and so very awkward, we learn that Dedra grew up in what would later be named an Imperial Kinderblock, which honestly explains so much about her. And it's that training from childhood that has made her who she is today, a cold, calculating, emotional, bankrupt servant of the Empire who can hold her own against the likes of Director Krennic and, yes, even Edie, whose passive-aggressive jabs have helped mold Cyril into the sniveling man before us. So let's talk about the Empire here for just a second, and let's address the dinner. That was lighthearted that we needed. It was kind of like a goofy beat because Cyril and Dedra's relationship is so funny to me. It was kind of a goofy beat that we needed to kind of just like take a breath, in my opinion. But then ultimately, again, we get reminded of how cold and sick Dedra is because she just tells the mother, like, nah, I'm going to allow him to communicate with you if you do this. And if you don't, then see ya. And it was so great to see. And Cyril getting up from the bed as he overheard his mom complimenting him. He's such a softie. It's so funny to watch. But then also Krennic having Dedra be part of this Gorman mission. Obviously, that's going to have some payoff, folks. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to have some payoff, and I'm certainly looking forward to it when it comes. By the final moments of the third episode, Cassian has made his way back to his family, but just as in Season 1, he is heartbreakingly late. Although he's able to rescue Bix and Will and lay several Imperial troopers to waste, he must leave B2EMO behind and contend with the pain of losing one of his truest friends, Brazo. A reflection of Mon's own personal sacrifice in losing Tay, you can see the pain in Cassian's eyes as he's forced to leave Brazo's body behind, foregoing the customary funerary honors befitting such a stand-up Phyrexian citizen. There will be no stone for Brazo, but his sacrifice will help build the foundation of the rebellion. And that is what this show is ultimately about. It's about a group of good people sacrificing themselves for an even greater good. And it's so well written. It's just so well done. And I know it's slow here and there sometimes. You have to be absolutely locked in. I do not recommend watching this thing at 11 p.m. at night after a really long day at work and after a long day of doing other things with your family and different things you have going on. Drink some coffee, lock in, take in every single word, put on the captions, and you will enjoy it. You have to be in the right mindset, though, because it's just so good if you take in each and every single plot line, in my opinion. But let's backtrack for a second. When Cassian enters the planet with that tie, and the camera, again, the cinematography or whatever you call it, the direction, the way it's shot, the way it looks with that tie, oh, so good. Such a great shot. All of the action with that TIE fighter on the planet as Cassian's killing stormtroopers and Imperials, so good. That's the theory or the theme of this podcast. So good. I just loved it so much. And obviously, rest in peace to Brazo. That was very emotional. Seeing the emotions on Cassian's face as he's flying off into space. That was tough to see. But him looking back at Bix was tough to see. It almost reminded me of how Cassian's mom, what was her name again? I got to scroll up to see it because I know we read it. We read it in here somewhere. Why am I blanking? Marva. There we go. The way that Marva looks back at Cassian whenever she's taking him to her house, to her home planet. It was very reminiscent of that to me. That's immediately what I thought of. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But Bix, man, she's going through so much. Everybody's going through so much, really. So I'm very much intrigued and very much interested to see this next block of 3. I can't wait to see it. actually. But there you go. And hold on. B2. Did they really leave that droid behind officially? Like, are we not going to see that thing ever again? Because that's, like, crushing. I guess B2 is going to be with that family that was left there, because I don't think any of those family members died. Right? That's my assumption. So, but it hurts. It hurts. I can't lie. Well, there you go. There's the breakdown of all the different plot lines. Not necessarily the breakdown, but just a discussion of what we witnessed and how I'm feeling about it. Well, I'm dying to know how you're feeling about it, though, so let me know down in the comments. And that almost gets to what I wanted to do on this podcast episode. But there's one other thing that I want to do to have some fun that I kind of teased up at the beginning. But before we do that, I do want to make sure you hear me on this. Again, not every podcast episode that we do to cover Andor Season 2 is going to be short like this. Sometimes I'll have the time to do a full-on scene-by-scene breakdown, or sometimes we'll kind of resort to this. Maybe I'll be able to get a friend to come on with me where we can go longer in that long-form podcast, which is what I really miss doing with you guys. But stay tuned. Like I said, hit subscribe, whatever platform. Things will be coming out, especially on YouTube, short-form reviews for each and every single episode. I did a short video for episode 1, 2, and 3 on my YouTube channel, so make sure you stay tuned because more stuff is coming, and I can't wait to hear from you as we go. So here's the last thing that I wanted to do. As I was preparing to record, I saw this. I saw this little article or story, I guess, on the Star Wars website, which says, poll, which Andor character would you invite to dinner? So let's do that one. But I also thought that there was one that was like, which Andor character are you? But I'm not seeing that one anymore. I wonder if I can find one. Let's see. Let's do a Google search. Which Andor character are you? Quiz. Here we go. But it's from 2022. But that's fine. We can do that one anyway, even though it doesn't have some Andor Season 2 characters. But that's fine. But let's address this dinner question. Which Andor character would you invite to? I mean, I would love to have Deidre over just because she would absolutely roast me, and I think that would be so much fun. Cassian would probably be too quiet for my liking. Mon Mothma would be too concerned with other things. Luthen would probably be speculating whether to kill me or not, so that's an absolute no. Bix is just going through so much to where I would almost feel like I have to be a counselor, and I don't feel qualified to do all of that. Definitely not Edie. Definitely not Cyril. Ooh, Krennic. That's a good pick. Okay, hot take. I'm going to vote Krennic because I want to know the details behind the Death Star. I think that's my vote. Let's see how this poll's going. All right, I clicked Krennic. He's at 8%. Okay, so Cassian's at 12%. Mon Mothma's at 23%. I'm not surprised by that. I bet that's the lead. Luthen is 12%. Y'all are crazy. Bix is 16%. That's good. Edie's 2%. That's probably the lowest. That's good. Deidre's 5%. Cyril's at 1%. Oh, never mind. Cyril's way down there. Krennic's at 8%, like I said. Marva's at 5%. And B2 with 17%. What are you going to say, though? What are you going to say to B2? Anyway. Okay, now let's figure out which Andor character I am. Take the quiz. Here we go. What do you believe is your greatest strength? My wit. I can't even say that word. My diplomatic way of speaking. My poker face. Let's go with my wit. Which or what would your friends say is your greatest weakness? Ooh, I'm always tired. That's a tough one. Trouble focusing on it, relying on the family. Nah, I'm always tired. That's it. Which character from Andor would you want on your kickball team? Ooh, who has the best leg? Nah. Let's go Deidre. We gotta go Deidre. What do you like to do for fun? Solve puzzles, try new cuisine. Go to the beach, travel. Let's say go to the beach. What was your favorite subject in school? Math, 100%. What was your favorite after-school activity? Sports. I don't know if that's on here, though. Chess club, debate club, drama club, robotics. Of those 4, I would say robotics. What's your secret fear? Water, failure? I'm sure that's supposed to say failure. Flying, losing my family. That's the one. Which Star Wars character is most trustworthy to you? Leia, General Veers, Chewbacca, Padme. Trustworthy? I was thinking loyal for Chewbacca. Definitely not Veers. It's either between Padme or Leia. I'm going to go Leia. Pick a color. Blue. All day. It's blue all day. And finally, choose a Star Wars planet to visit. Jakku? Why does everyone want to go to Jakku? Coruscant, Niamos, Ferrix. Not Ferrix. Too much stuff goes down. Not Niamos. Not Jakku. I don't really want to go to Coruscant either, though. I've always wanted to go to some kind of beach planet. What's that beach planet from Rogue One? That's the one I want to go to. Okay, we're not going to go Ferrix. We're not going to go Coruscant because that's too many people. We're not going to go Jakku, so we're going to go Niamos. There you go, folks. Star Wars tells me that I'm Cassian Andor. Boom. And that's why you should listen to Mando Talk. Because as we cover Andor, you're hearing it from Cassian Andor himself, baby. You're always pushing yourself forward to success, achievements, and career opportunities, but you can never forget the friends and family who helped shape you into the person you are today. Would you still be Cassian Andor among the Rogue One crew? Find out which of the rebels you would be. Oh boy, we could be here forever if they're going to keep on giving me more links to other quizzes. But I'm not going to do that to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this shorter podcast episode. Let me know how you're feeling about Cassian Andor, or the Andor series, rather. Let me know down in the comments on whatever platform you are listening. Follow me on Twitter at Mando Talk for more content, and I can't wait to discuss the next block of 3 episodes with you. So hit subscribe so you can hear that conversation whenever it airs, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much, and as always, we have spoken.